That said, about the USC offense, Matt, do you think it was a matter of, with 5 touchdowns in the first half, no touchdowns in the second half, and 2 field goals in the third quarter, and the game was out of hand, USC taking the foot off the gas, or that Stanford came up with something? And there are some reasonable concerns about the USC offense.
The thing is, it's not just that USC was so good in the first half and then stepped off the gas pedal. USC was, just trying to run the clock and be more conservative. I mean, it makes sense. If the USC was up 41-14, at that point, you want to shorten the game. You don't want to have any more plays than absolutely necessary, both in terms of resting the defense, but also, making sure that your offensive linemen don't get hurt. And you're thin on offensive line. You have great starters, but you're thin. You want to shorten the game. You want to get out of Dodge as quickly as possible. So, if Stanford had scored 2 more touchdowns in the first half and the game was still close, you wouldn't have seen USC step off the gas pedal. You would have continued to see the urgency that we witnessed in the first half. There was nothing schematic that Stanford did. It was just USC, being more conservative. The other thing to note about the second half on offense for USC is that, you might recall Brendan Rice committed offensive pass interference near the goal line on a play where he got open. And, that was a key penalty. Like if he doesn't commit that penalty, he makes that catch and it's a legal catch near the 3, USC scores a touchdown, and we probably don't even get to a point where, Stanford was down 13 with I think 4 minutes left and still had the slimmest of chances of making a comeback. The other thing, and we wrote about this at Trojan's Wire, if you're reading our site, we went in on Lincoln Riley. We're not here to just praise him and just, extend palm branches as the Messiah. If he makes mistakes, we're going to be on it. And those 2 deep passes that USC made, the USC attempted, I should say, with about 8 minutes left, up 20 points, that was just lazy coaching. You need to run the ball. You need to drain the clock. If, USC was running the clock with the 27-point lead, with the 41-14 lead. After Stanford scored, there were 8 minutes left. You need to just whittle that clock down. That's your most important task. So, if USC does not throw those 2 deep balls with 8 minutes left, you get the clock down to 6:30. And so if Stanford eventually scores, you have just 2 minutes left instead of 4.5. That left that slight sliver of doubt and that slight lane of opportunity for Stanford to potentially, score with 40 seconds left, recover an onside kick. Maybe you get a miracle on the farm. Those 2 deep pass plays were easily the 2 worst in-game decisions that Lincoln Riley has made at USC. If you're going to run clock, run clock. That's the other point. Stay committed to a plan if you have it. Those passes, just deviated from that. If you were going to throw long balls up 20 with 8 minutes left, then why weren't you throwing long balls up 41-14? So on so many different levels, those 2 long passes, that was just legitimately terrible coaching by Lincoln Riley. And at Trojan's Wire, you're going to get the straight story. We're not going to sugarcoat. We're not going to ignore those kinds of things just because, hey, Lincoln Riley. No, we're going to hold him to account, and we certainly did that this past week.
For college football nerds out there that enjoy statistics like this, from a scoring standpoint, this game was almost the antithesis of what happened last year when Stanford was up 42-14, gave up 2 touchdowns late to make it cosmetically look a little bit better for USC at 42-28 versus this game at 41-14 for the Trojans, and Stanford scoring 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
And the symmetry between last year's week 2 against Stanford and this year's week 2, Clay Helton was involved in a coach firing. Only this time, of course, he wasn't the guy getting fired. He caused another week 2 coach firing to occur, beating Scott Frost and sending him packing at Nebraska. You just can't make this stuff up, Mark.